experience of coming home after combat-related deployment is complex. The men and women who serve this country experience these complexities differently, but their path to reintegration can be impacted by war-related health concerns like depression, PTSD, TBI, substance use, and suicide. The psychological impacts of service are often compounded by the physical manifestations of injury like headaches, back pain, hypertension, and respiratory issues, just to name a few of the challenges faced by those who've served. Resilience Grows Here has dedicated its service to working with those who have served, who are serving, and who work with our National Guard to address at a community level some of these important issues. But those who serve this country do not sacrifice in isolation. Their families provide an invaluable role of love, support, and deep concern for their well-being, and the work we do recognizes that for every serviceman who has answered the call of duty, there is a community that they live in that also feels the impact of service. Providing support in communities for servicemen and their families is vital for their ability to adapt and overcome the challenges that civilian life presents. And Resilience Grows Here has worked hard to create a peer training that works with existing veteran-based groups to better skill those who hold leadership roles to recognize when there might be a problem and to be able to support and refer a veteran and their family to support and, most importantly, be part of the journey in finding a solution that works. So today we're very excited to have on Health Matters three good friends of Resilience Grows Here: Jim Delancey, who is the State Commander for the VFW, Lee Wilson, who is the Connecticut Veteran and Military Support Chairman, and of course Kim Rada, who is both a registered nurse, an anthropologist, and a research associate for the Institute of Community Research, and a very important member of the Resilience Grows Here team. So welcome, everybody.
Thank you.
Good to be here. I'm surrounded on all sides by greatness. So let's start, Jim, with you. As the commander, it would be only the right deference to refer to you first. Can you tell us a little bit about the VFW? It has a long history of supporting veterans. Can you tell us a little bit more about the VFW?
Yes, I can. The VFW was formed actually out of two different groups of veterans that were working with veterans from a war. And it was established right after the Spanish-American War.
Wow.
And the Philippine, I can't think of the word for it, but the Philippine conflict, we'll say. And it was created because the veterans were coming home with no help. In other words, they were released from the service, and they could come home with one leg missing, they could have come home with wounds that were still open and everything, and there was nobody there to help our veterans at the time.
Wow.
So some of the veterans at that time started a help center for veterans, and by doing this, they were able to go out and get help for the veterans that couldn't work and stuff like that. So hence started Veterans of Foreign Wars. They joined up together as one unit in 1899. So they're over 118 years, 120 years old now.
Wow, I had no idea that was actually the history of the VFW.
Yeah.
So in Connecticut, Lee, how many chapters of the, because you work in chapters, don't you? So you're spread.
Post.
We're
Posts.
actually post, yeah.
Okay, so you're spread across the country, and you're, each state has a state command and then state support services, support officers. How many posts do we have here in Connecticut?
There are 97 posts in the state of Connecticut, and we have 6 districts.
Okay, so you're going to have to explain to the folks at home as well as me how that's all kind of divided up.
Well, the districts are broken up by parts of the state.
Okay.
And each district could be anywhere from, I think, 7 or 8 posts we have in one of our districts, and we have one of our districts has 22 posts.
Wow.
But it's going to be spread out all over the place.
And then they're all overseen by a centralized command here in the state of Connecticut.
Right. Our main office is in Rocky Hill, Connecticut.
Okay.
And I work out of that hill. Lee works in Rocky Hill. But each post in the district has a district command also. Then it goes from post at district level, then to central command up here in Rocky Hill.
Wow. So if you think about from 1890 being that original group of men that banded together
Right.
with that common mission of providing service to those who had served the country, to today, and this amazing centralized structure that you've got, not just here in Connecticut, but across the United States, that's a pretty amazing achievement.
It is, and we also have posts in Europe. Name some of them, Lee.
Oh, I know in Europe there's Grafenwehr, there's
Yeah.
Grafenwehr in Germany, there's the Philippines. It's they're all, that part of it I don't really know
Well,
all of
sure.
them, but they're all over the place.
But
the
the
European, I want to say district, but it's not right.
Just call it command.
Well, European Command,
Yeah,
yeah.
European
But I mean, it's Germany and all those little countries where people have
How
stayed.
incredible.
Yeah, I think there's over 10 or 12,000 post numbers. I mean, the biggest one we have in Connecticut is 12150, which is West Haven, and I'm sure they've created. I know that the national commander wanted us to create 12 more this year, 12 new ones.
Something like that.
So, you know,
How
But-
incredible.
But the main thing I'm getting pointed across on that is the fact that with all our commands throughout the world, we all still have one mission, and that is to help our veterans.
yeah.
And you know, that's one of the reasons why Resilience Grows Here and the VFW became such logical partners, because the ability for the VFW to reach out and to put its arms around those who've served, and Resilience Grows Here working embedded in our communities and really trying to link as many different veteran-related resources together. It was just a natural marriage of that commonality of service. Before we venture a little further in, I just want to touch on how somebody becomes a member of the VFW.
Well, veterans of foreign war, you have to have served in a foreign war or served in Korea.
Okay.
And just show your eligibility to any post member can sign you up.
Yeah, it's based on the fact that you're either in a war zone or in direct connection with it. In other words, direct support, they called it, and then you can become a member of the Veterans of Foreign Wars. And again, that is a help to the younger veterans coming back, because now they have something that is related to what they have experienced, and the gentlemen and men and women, I should say, of the foreign wars, veterans of foreign wars, they're all common. They're brothers and sisters.
And that's a beautiful segue to the next question I wanted to ask you, Jim, and Lee, feel free to jump in. You and I have had the conversation many times about the changing face of organisations as we grow, and the VFW of today is not the VFW of 1890. Well, not quite.
No, definitely not quite.
You guys have definitely evolved, and here we are in a new era, and we have this theatre of modern warfare where we're going into our 18th year of continuous warfare. And we often talk on Health Matters about the fact that folks at home aren't aware of that this war period has not ended for 18 years. What does it look like for the VFW to reinvent itself, so to speak, to cater for this new soldier?
We have to. We're a changing face. Just about every day there's something that we're changing to accommodate the newer generation of veterans coming back.
Sure.
The veterans coming back are fighting a techno war, I would call it, where they have GPS tracking, they have drones flying over, some of them are controlling from desktops and stuff like that. Desktop war, I would call it. But long story short, if we stayed with, okay, I was Vietnam. So if I stayed with the theory that Vietnam was the only war and everything follows the Vietnam procedure, there would not be technically a viable VFW.
Sure.
We have to keep changing. We have to listen to the young folks coming back of what they really need and want. Plus, you figured some of these veterans coming back have been on tours 2 or 3 times. they're coming back to a totally different world from what they were used to being over there at.
Absolutely.
And this is where the problem starts.
Well, you know, and this is a great segue actually to Kim. So Kim's work with Resilience Grows Here has been from our very outset, our very onset, and Kim has spearheaded a lot of the data gathering and the research we did in those early days. Can you tell us a little bit about what we learned about veterans and how they choose to seek help?
Well, in many of the conversations that we've had, veterans have talked about not seeking help for a whole variety of reasons, including distrust of administration, whatever that may be, fear of what repercussions may arise if they do seek help, particularly if it's mental health related or behavioral health related or substance abuse related. General issues that really create an isolation. And so what happens is what we've often found is that it's not always the veteran himself or herself who will make that overture or, excuse me, make the call, knock on the door, but it'll be a family member. Because even though there may be a disconnect or a distance between family member, friends, and the returning veteran, those other folks are impacted by what is happening and how he or she is feeling and what situations they find themselves in. So oftentimes it's that what could be and what we hope becomes additional support for the veteran who will make the call and seek out the resources and ask the questions.
And you know, you think about this changing face of the VFW, and we've jointly had this conversation as a group. That, in fact, is one of those big changing faces. It's about working with the families as well.
Oh yeah, definitely. VFW is all about the family and the veterans, and it's been that way since 1899. And this was originally why we started the VFW way back then. Not me, but you know what I mean.
You are looking pretty
Yeah, I
good for
look very-
120.
20 years old. Yeah, I got another 30 years ago. But it was to help the family of the veterans and the veterans at the same time.
Absolutely.
The healing starts within.
Can I?
Yeah, no, please.
I'm sorry, I'm stepping over
I'm
there.
just going to know. I'm following up on the question that Justine gave me. That because we understand and we know that families and close friends and their support is so important, how can they connect? How can they connect with the VFW, and what does the VFW offer them? I think this is really important information that we need to be able to share as a resource.
Well, I know in Simsbury, I'm from the Simsbury Post, and we're trying to create events where families are included, the families and the kids, because the soldier's been deployed away from his family, and it's time to come back and be with your family, not be away from them.
That's true. Exactly what it's supposed to be. Helping the veterans that are here, helping the veterans transition back into civilian life. And
Which is not
we
an
do
easy
have,
road.
No, it's definitely not an easy road, because when they're coming back, they're either don't have a way of translating or transferring their knowledge or skill set for what they had over there into civilian life. Now, we did create a transition number where you can actually call, put in your MSO, military order service numbers, that's what they call them now. And it'll tell you what is comparable and what's out there. We do have stuff like that, but the veterans still have a lot of stuff, you know, they overcome. We do have veteran support groups.
Yep.
And we also have our VFW where people can come down. We do functions like Lee that has mentioned to bring in the families and stuff.
And you know, when you look at veterans and you look at families and you look at the challenges, one of the big challenges that veterans have with their family members is all the good intentions on the planet, from a wife or a mother or a girlfriend or a sister, to say, you know, I'm here and I want to hear what you're struggling with, nobody gets it like another veteran. And I think when Kim and I and the Resilience Grows Here team did that initial research, it was starkly clear that peer support was integral to being able to bring the men and women who've served back into the community and to give them that safe space where they can connect. Now, both of you gentlemen are peer trained by Resilience Grows Here. You're both suicide prevention trained and you're peer trained. Why is this important?
Go ahead, Lee. I'll let you start it, and I'll carry in on you. How's that sound?
Peer support.
Peer
at its
support
best.
here at the best.
I feel it's being able to give that soldier a shoulder. You know, being able to be there for them, not to be their friend, but to be there if they need to talk to someone other than their boss or their leader, because that's it's hard. It's like Kim said, it's hard to. I mean, it's pounded into us for so long that you're not weak. You let anybody know that you have a problem. You're done. You can't, you know, and you don't. I know a lot of the soldiers that are out there now own weapons. Well, if they say I have a mental problem, they're going to lose that chance to be able to carry a weapon. So a lot of them won't tell anybody, and it's just it's nice to know that someone's out there. If I need to go talk to them, I can go talk to them, and they'll hold what I tell them in confidence and not say it to anybody else.
Yeah, I mean, that's something we're going to circle back to because that's a big component. Jim, for you, why is peer support so important?
Well, I believe in the fact that if it's a veteran talking to another veteran, they can talk on the same language set that they know. Like Lee's era and the veterans that are after him are on acronyms, if you want to call it that. You know, they're ODS and OEF and all this. Now, us Vietnam veterans, we didn't have that. We talking on the basis of World War II. So for me to talk to a younger guy, I have learned some of their language. But for a younger guy to talk to a younger guy, they talk in the same language. You said, you know, myself, I can say, well, an M16, you do this and do that. A veteran from Vietnam knows it. They don't know what it is on the younger one. So talking, if you can have the same language as your veteran coming back, then he feels more comfortable about talking to you.
You know, it was funny, we had a peer event at one of our senior centres and talk about how two different theatres of war, eras of war, can come together with commonality. There was a gentleman from the Vietnam era and there was a young, newly returned veteran, and both of them had worked in the area of, to cut through the jargon, they blew things up.
Yeah.
And within 10 seconds of recognising that they both had worked in the same area, they were talking about how the ability to blow things up had altered across
Yep.
the span of warfare. And these two gentlemen, despite the fact there was probably 50 years difference in age, became firm friends over, you know, eggs and bacon and coffee. And that magic happens when people speak the same language.
That's it. It's the same
Well,
thing.
I mean, you're trained for 4 months. I mean, basic training in your specialty school. That's all you know. I mean, you're both in the same area. You know all that stuff, and it's. I don't want to say beat into you, but it's pushed pretty hard. So that's how. And even, you know, Jim served in Vietnam. I served in the Gulf War, but we still understand basic training and that basic skill, and know how to talk to each other about it and not piss each other off.
And the thing is, like Lee, he was a heavy equipment operator. Now, when I was over there, I was technically into everything under the sun. I ran some of the equipment that he knew. So when he's talking about, you know, the D8s and all that, I know what he's talking about. And this does help because it does create a, you know, a bond, like you said. It's a bond. We can relate. Now, he's 20 years after what I got back from Vietnam.
But you get that common language.
Right.
Now, I want to pick up on something really important that Lee said, and Kim, I think you're the one to answer this question.
We'll see.
confidential. You really undersell yourself, my friend. We talk about confidentiality, and we talk about some of the skill sets that we learn when we teach the Resilience Grows Here peer mentor training. We talk about confidentiality. We talk about the ability to be an active listener. We talk about how to recognize when somebody might need that additional help. We talk about the ability to be empathetic and to listen with empathy. Kim, why is all of these skills so important?
I think part of it gets back to what Lee was talking about a bit earlier, that when that relationship is developing and the connection is made between the peer mentor and the mentee, that becomes another safe space. You know, we talk about creating safe spaces, and we talk about this all the time and work hard at it through Resilience Grows Here, but it doesn't have to be a physical space.
Yeah.
It's the, how can I put it, the bond, that's great, and the space between you and I, or you and your mentee. And the fact that the person comes to their peer mentor maybe with a little trepidation and maybe a bit of distrust, it's building that relationship and it's building that safe space, and not breaching that trust and that essential promise that you've made to one another.
Right.
That, you know, what you talk about stays among the two of you, that it doesn't get shared with a family member. It doesn't, I mean, if the mentee wants to share his or her experience in this program with someone else, that's fine, but as the mentor, we're taught that that stays, and that's excuse me, that's a sacred space, and it's a sacred confidence.
It's definitely true, 100%. I agree with you on that. It shouldn't go anywhere but between you two.
Absolutely.
And you know, one of the things I'm so proud of in the time that you've been the commander for the state of Connecticut is the work that you have initiated, and Resilience Grows Here has been able to partner with you, and you know that work is still going on in training the post leaders in the VFW, not only in suicide prevention training but also in peer training, recognizing that if you're going to take a role of leadership in your community for the VFW, for some other veteran-based community organisation, you're going to be working directly with veterans and veterans that are in need. So by being trained, by understanding all those special little nuances, you put everybody in the best possible space where they're going to be supported and connected. Believe it or not, we have a whole 2 minutes left.
Yeah.
How time flies when we're
I
having
know.
fun.
Yeah,
So,
agreed.
We'll have to have part B.
oh
Part
my
B,
goodness,
there you go. Yeah,
every
we do
time.
it again. Yeah.
So just in 1 minute, what are some of the activities coming up with the VFW that support veterans and their families?
Well, we're planning a hike on June 1st, which is National Trails Day, at Hublin Tower. So any veteran that wants to come up there, I'm going to try to have the state commander up there. I'm going to try to have the state service officer up there. I invite you up there, and you can come if you want.
And all this will be on the Resilience Grows Here website. Don't worry. Anything else statewide that we need to know about that's happening?
Lee's more in tune with that right now. I know I've got some stuff lined up, but I know one is a 22-mile march, which I'm not going to do.
Yeah, I don't know about that yet.
That's
Yeah.
okay. So you know what? What we're going to do is we're going to direct, as we always do, our viewers to the Resilience Grows Here website. Everything that we talked about here today, everything that is coming up in the next 6 to 12 months, we'll make sure that we post it both on our Resilience Grows Here website and on our Facebook page. Today we've learned the importance of active service personnel, National Guardsmen and veterans having their own peers available to support and help address the unique challenges they may have upon coming home. Communities have an important role to play in offering safe and inclusive spaces for those who have served our nation to feel as though they belong. We all have the responsibility to learn how to create welcoming and supportive environments. Organisations like the VFW are uniquely placed to perform part of this role, as they are historically groups of men and women who have served and understand the needs and barriers to reintegration. It is encouraging to see organisations like the VFW embracing the importance of QPR suicide prevention training and the need for specific peer training to ensure that those who hold office spaces and office bearers are best equipped to deal with the challenges that members and their families may face. Resilience Grows Here is honoured to collaborate with existing veteran-related groups like the VFW to provide this important training and to be a partner in ensuring that services are provided and community links are made so that veterans' needs are met in communities where they live. If you have any questions regarding today's show, or you would like more information about Resilience Grows Here or your local VFW, please reach out to our website www.resiliencegrovshere.org, or of course our Facebook RGH. Remember, until next time, your greatest wealth is your health.